Well guys, this is it. Super Rugby Pacific round 16's coming up this weekend. It is the final round of the Super Rugby regular season. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the team sheet, seeing which players are in, which players are out, as well as making my predictions about how these games might play out and what the final margins might be. Coming up first, we have the Highlanders versus the Chiefs in Dunedin. Home game for the Landers. Gonna be dry as usual under the cover. Looking at the lineups, probably the big news for the Highlanders is that Tane Robertson is out. He is replaced by Cameron Millar. Sam Gilbert moves to the 10 slot on the bench. Other than that, Mitch Dunshea is out. He is replaced by Ty Cribb. There's no sign of Caleb Tangitau, unfortunately. I was really hoping to see him again before the season finished. We're not going to get the chance to see that Nareki, Radamaitavuki-Nitkins, Tangitau, a back three combination. Possibly the best back three you can get without any All Blacks, but that's the way it is played out, unfortunately. And for the Chiefs, probably the big news here is that Narawa is out. We saw him go off early last week. Apparently he's had to get stitches in his lip. Good news for the Chiefs though, Atenai Nanai Saturo has returned from a long-term injury. He gets a start at number 11. That pushes Leroy Carter to number 14. Another bit of interesting news as well is that Manasa Mataele is back. Haven't seen him for a while. He is on the bench. Looking at the forwards for the Chiefs, big news here is that Finau is back, as well as Josh Lord in the locks as well. Looking at the front row, they seem to have swapped places with the front row from last week. The front row from last week getting some rest on the bench. That's how this game's going to play out. I mean, look, the Highlanders have proved to be really staunch opposition in the last couple of weeks. After that loss to the Moana Pacifica, they went to Wellington and gave the Canes a good scare. Last week they went to Christchurch in front of a sold out Christchurch crowd, ran them close, only lost by about 3 points. So yeah, they've been really kind of a tough nugget to crack in recent weeks, the Highlanders. By contrast though, I mean, the Chiefs, they were looking imperious against Moana Pacifica last week, putting on that gigantic score, looking clinical while doing it as well. It's really hard not to back the Chiefs after that performance. They are looking like the best team in the competition, whereas the Highlanders, they really have nothing to play for now after that loss last week. They don't even have a mathematical chance anymore. They are playing at home, but they are only playing for pride. Because of that, I'm going to give it to the Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs, if they do win this with a bonus point, I mean, they've got the top spot locked up, but even if they just win, they probably do anyway. So I'm going to say Chiefs by 16, but it could be even more if they get off to a good start. After that, on the Friday night, we have the Brumbies taking on the Crusaders at GIO Stadium in Canberra. Conditions should be good for this game. Big news for the Brumbies is that Lolosio is back. We saw him get stretched off a few weeks ago in that pretty sickening injury. Other big news for them is that Alan Alatoa is out as well. He has a calf injury, I believe. He is replaced by Fotuaika. For the Crusaders, nice bit of news for them is that Ethan Blackadder is out. Haven't seen him for a little while. Antonio Chalfoun, he comes back in as well, which is a boon for them, I think. Probably the biggest news is that David Havili is out. I don't believe he is injured. Possibly he is being rested for this game. Dallas McLeod and Levi Almoa make up the midfield for the Crusaders. Have not seen Levi Almoa for a while, interestingly. Don't think he's been injured either, perhaps just been out of favor. Still no sign of Will Jordan, who McNichol's done a pretty handy job, but yeah, Jordan, I think he is going to be key for their chances in the big games, which this one is. Fortunately, they should have him back in time for the playoffs. As for how this game is going to play out, well, this game, it is the battle for second place, but the winner will go top if the Chiefs lose. I think this will be a tough game. It could be a bit of an arm wrestle. The Crusaders, they've had the least carries and least run meters of any New Zealand team while having to make the most tackles. They don't necessarily kick more than anybody else, so it really just shows that they're having to spend a lot of time without the ball and spending a lot of time just defending. And I think this is down to their forwards just not being able to dominate the collisions, ball in hand, like Crusaders sides we have seen in the past. This has led to them getting turned over a bit at ruck time, getting their ball slowed down, and just putting them on the back foot. And I think the Brumbies actually thrive in this type of confrontation. They really love to use their big forwards and are happy to play a very patient game where they just grind away up front, control the ball for long periods, let the penalty counts rack up, and move the ball only when it is on. And the Crusaders' defense has actually been very, very good this year, and that is what sort of helped them survive and kept them in games when they've been under the pump. But really that is just doing things the hard way, right? Like, you really need to get on attack to take control of the game, to score points. And despite all of that, they have actually scored almost as many tries as the Chiefs. That is the second most tries scored in the entire competition. So they are actually ruthless with ball in hand if you give them field position and possession. So this is where the danger is for the Brumbies. The Crusaders, they really are just a bit more lethal than them. Ball in hand, they can do more with less while on attack. So I think this will be a close game, but I think the Crusaders, they do have the potential to get away a bit if the Brumbies are not clinical, if they don't control the ball for longer periods. So it's a tough one to pick, but yeah, I do think the Crusaders could take it. I think they could do it by one score game, 3 points. Then on the Saturday afternoon, we have the Auckland Blues versus the Waratahs at Eden Park, home game for the Blues. At the moment, conditions look like they will be mainly fine. Big news for the Blues is that Mark Talia, he is back from his suspension. And while they've shuffled this lineup around a bit between the bench and the starting spot since that Moana game, to me this looks like pretty much the full strength Blues 23 outside of those season-ending injuries. So if they had Stephen Perifetta, maybe Cam Christie in at 6, that would make this team better. But otherwise, it's very, very close, especially for this back end of the season. And for the Waratahs lineup, by contrast, it looks a little bit depleted actually. There's no Rob Leota, no Charlie Gamble, no Jake Gordon, as good as Teddy Wilson is. Like, Jake Gordon, he brings that leadership as well. No Lalakai Feketi, and obviously still no sign of Joseph Suali'i, the weapon. So yeah, not the ideal lineup for the Waratahs, I think, going into a must-win game just to have a chance to get through. The winner of this game will actually go into the top 6 if Moana loses against the Hurricanes, which I think is a pretty likely outcome, even though it's not one to take for granted. So both of these sides do have everything to play for in terms of making it to the playoffs. And especially the Blues, I mean, they're the defending champs, right? Like, they will not want their season to end here. basically without firing a shot in their title defense, because both of these teams have really just struggled all season and haven't really been able to show signs of progressing the game and getting over their issues. That said, it's still hard not to back the Blues, who are at home. With as much troubles as they have had, their defense has still been very strong, and that forward packet's still very powerful, even though it isn't humming like it was last year. So the Tars, on the other hand, they're still without their weapons, and they're going to need to follow the other team's blueprint, the teams that have beat the Blues, where you match the Blues up front in that collision zone, get low, stop those forwards getting that go forward. That slows down their ruck ball, and then the Blues, they kind of just fall apart. They don't have a plan B. Not sure if the Tars have that in them though, especially with this kind of weaker lineup. And yeah, I got to give it to the Blues for this one. The Blues, they're also going to want to get that bonus point as well. They need the bonus point to get through if the Moana do scrape past the Hurricanes. So yeah, I think the Blues, they'll try and get a good start and then turn the screws later, really put the Waratahs away. I'm going to say Blues by 18 points. And straight after that, we have the Hurricanes versus Moana Pacifica on the Saturday night in Wellington. Home game for the Canes. Conditions at the moment look like they will be fine. For the Hurricanes, big news in the lineup is that Love finally moves back to 15 and Brett Cameron gets the start in the number 10 jersey. In the forward pack, no Asafo Moa, I believe he's injured, no Wakalea either. Just a minor interesting thing, on the bench we've got Johnny Rover and TJ Clark getting starts. Both very exciting backs, so look out for them when they come on. For Moana, this is pretty much the same lineup that got that hiding from the Chiefs, but Danny Tawala is out. He has been replaced in the 12 jersey by Julian Sevilla. Something else of a minor note as well is that Lotu Anisi is back. We haven't seen him all year. His first game back could possibly be the last one of the season. He is on the bench, so good player. Looking forward to seeing him play finally. And as for how this game plays out, I mean, Moana's top 6 fate is in their own hands here. If they defeat the Hurricanes with a bonus point, that will guarantee their spot. That is going to be a tall order though. If they win without a bonus point, if they just scrape by the Canes, that means they need the Blues to not beat the Tars with a bonus point. So still a few permutations here. Still everything to play for though. For Moana, the big question is just going to be how they bounce back from that absolute trouncing at the hands of the Chiefs. Suffering that low after the high of beating the Blues a couple of weeks ago, I really just don't know how they will respond. With the leadership they have, like from Adi Sevilla, I do think that they will bounce back and turn up. But I mean, the Hurricanes, they're looking really scary, man. Apart from that hiccup against the Highlanders a couple weeks ago, like ever since that Brumbies game, they've just been looking really lethal. I think they're probably the most dangerous team in the competition in terms of their ability to create opportunities. The only thing that's really held them back is just keeping it together enough to finish all those opportunities. It feels like if they can just be a bit more clinical, they can beat anybody in the competition anywhere and are real contenders to take the whole thing out. Their spot in the top 6 is secured, so they have less to play for in that regard, but the team they've named here is strong, so I still think they're just going to be too much for Moana. They're not going to want to let it slip at home. I'm going to say the Hurricanes to take it by 10 points, but potentially could be more if Moana aren't ready mentally and haven't recovered from that loss last week. And after that, we have the final game of the regular season. It's the Reds versus the Fijian in Drua at Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane. Home game for the Reds. Forecast at the moment says that there is a decent chance of wet there. Not that I think it will affect things too much. Big news for the Reds is that Josh Fluke is finally back. He got injured earlier in the season. And otherwise, this lineup looks pretty good. Not missing much from last week. Although there were players injured earlier in the year who are still gone. Guys like Uru, guys like Matty Fezler, guys like Salakai Lotto. For the Drua, we've seen them shift around their players quite a lot this year. Actually, the injury ward's not too bad considering the stage of the season we're in. There's no Darren Alangi, no Drua Sese. Frank Lamani's been out for a while, but otherwise this team looks pretty good. Tavita Kanaveri gets a start in what's probably going to be his last game in the Drua jersey. And as for how this game's going to play out, the Reds only need a losing bonus points to secure their spot in the top 6. But in reality, they should be able to crush the Drua at home. The Drua, they've got nothing to play for here, and they've had some real shockers when playing away from home. Reds could put on a pretty big score here that will probably only be limited by the conditions. At the moment, it's looking like it could be a bit wet for this game, so I'm going to say the Reds by 18 points, possibly more. Anyway, guys, that'll do it from me this week. Let me know what your thoughts are on this week's games, which games you're looking forward to. Thinking that Cairns versus Moana game's going to be quite fun. Brumbies versus Crusaders, though, that could be quite a close and engaging arm wrestle. Anyway, stick around for my next video. It's going to be our last fantasy best picks video of the year coming up after this one. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you next time.